Yes. Finally. Yes. はい、できました。皆さん大変お待たせいたしました。やっと、はい、真の判定が完了しまして、できました。Finally. Yes. はい、できました。皆さん大変お待たせ。ちょっと僕もライブを開きながらに今なっちゃったので、音が入ってしまいました。これで始めさせていただきます。今の部分はもうスキップして、見てもらえたらと思います。はい。では皆さん、今回はこの授業のスタイルをちょっと変更で申し訳ございませんでした。そしてご参加ありがとうございます。先にちょっと僕のイントロをさせていただきます。今日は2回目の授業になります。で、今回はもうすでにご参加いただいているこちらがこちらかにいるアナエルさんっていうですね、セイシェルという国から来てもらってます。で、セイシェルどこかわからないという人は、今から Google マップでセイシェルって入れて、どこかこう探してもらって、その場所からしっかりして覚えて、来てもらえればなと思います。で、まず宿題のおさらいですけれども、まず動画をご視聴ください。これを見る前に、そのセーシェルのその景色とかもわかる、ディスカバリーチャンネルで撮った動画がありますので、そちらをご覧の上に、こちらにご参加いただければと思います。で、加えて、Moodle の方に、前回出させてもらった3カ国の人を呼びたい人を3カ国、入れるというのがありますので、こちらも、入れた上でこの動画を見てもらえたらなっていうふうに思います。3カ国に加えて自分のその人の名前も入れてもらいたいと思っています。ので、それが完了しましたら、これで見てもらえればなと思ってますので、よろしくお願いします。で、今日は僕はそんなにイントロはしません。もうそのまま、アナユさんのお話を聞いていただいて、で、その上で、どういうふうに思ったのかっていうコメントであったりとか、それから質問を、ムードの方に入れてください。すべて、アナユさんに送らせてもらうことになっているので、その後、いくつか質問をピックアップする形で、前回は特別、全部答えてもらいましたけども、ピックアップして、答えてもらうように手になってますので、またそれもご案内させてもらいます。はい。で、今回はセーシェルから、副業家と、呼ばせていただいてますが、複数の副で、副業っていうやつですね。副業って聞くと、皆さんもしかしたらサイドビジネスとかそっちの方を考えるかもしれないですけど、いえ、そっちではなく、複数のお仕事をされている方をお呼びしました。で、詳しいことは、また聞いてもらえたらなと思いますが、環境活動の、NGO をやりながら、会計士として活動されているアナエルさんに来てもらっているので、ぜひね、1個、皆さんおそらく働き始めたら1個のことしかできないんじゃないかとか、まあ、自分のパッションどういうふうに継続していったらいいんだろうかっていうところを、ぜひ参考にしてもらいたくお呼びしたので、お話を聞いてもらえればなと思います。So, Anil, I'm done with that introduction. So I'm gonna pass it to you, Anil, and you can start all over, and then you can close this session. Good.
Thank you so much, Daichi. Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here and to be presenting to you. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen. Okay. All right. So I hope you can see my screen. So as I mentioned, my name is Anna Boduel. I am 31 years old. I am from Seychelles, and today my presentation is going to be about solving the planetary issue that lives within our society. So first, we're going to look at some Seychelles pictures. I'm really happy to be explaining about my country. And then we're going to look a bit about my journey, both from an academic, civic, and career perspective. And then I will be talking about the SIDS Youth Aims Hub, which is an NGO that I co-founded in 2014. Afterwards, we're going to look at the climate change perspective to global career development. So first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Seychelles. Seychelles is a group of islands found in the Indian Ocean region, southeast of Africa. We are about 115 islands and we are surrounded by sea. We actually have more ocean territory than land territory. We are very famous for our beaches and our green scenery. And a lot of people from all over the world, including Japan, visit our country for those very characteristics. The people of Seychelles are originally from really all over the world. when our country was actually formed by a group of colonials as well as a group of slaves that came from Africa and from Asia. And so you will see that a lot of people in Seychelles are very mixed. And we have, again, characteristics of people from all over the world. So our country is mainly its main economic pillar is mostly tourism as well as fisheries. Speaking of fish, fish is a daily thing for Seychellois people. A lot of our food is influenced by seafoods really because most of our foods come from the sea, and we also use a lot of spices, especially those from Asia, and this is something that is really really part of our culture. So in the pictures here, you can see different types of dishes, which is a very common delicacy for people in Seychelles. At the top right, we can see salted fish. So this is a very, very, very famous dish here in Seychelles. Basically, the fishermen, they will slice the fishes and then they will season it with a lot of salt and let it dry out in the sun. And then when it's dry, like you can see in the picture, we boil it, we make stews, we make curries, we make lots of really, really nice dishes. So Seychelles is considered a lot as a paradise country. However, it is threatened by a lot of man-made and natural disasters. So in the pictures here, you can see that we are affected by flooding, by adverse weather changes, by coral bleaching. So for instance, in the two pictures of the sea at the top of the screen, you can see an ocean where there's a lot of fishes and the corals are booming with life. It's very colorful. It's really pretty to look at. But on the next picture, you can see that the sea is practically dead. The corals are white. It's completely bleached. And this is not healthy for the ocean environment. And this in turn affects the fishermen, and this in turn affects our livelihood as Seychellois people. So these issues has led me to start my journey in civic work. When I was 19 years old, I co-founded an NGO called the SIDS Youth AIS Hub. And so some of the main projects that we were working on back then was inspired by the things that we saw on the ground, right? So, we saw the coastlines of our islands being washed out. Some of my friends and their families, they had, their homes destroyed from heavy rainfalls. So witnessing all of that growing up inspired me and my friends to found this NGO and work in advancing youth-led sustainable development initiatives. So some of the projects that I worked on gave me the Queen's Young Leaders Award in 2018. I was around 25 years old back then. And I traveled to the UK to receive this award from Queen Elizabeth herself. And my civic work continued to evolve. And in 2019, I traveled again to the UK to receive, as a delegate to the One Young World. And this is where I met other like-minded individuals, such as myself, from different island nations. And we stayed in touch, we collaborated on projects. And finally, in 2022, again, some of the projects that I had developed over the years allowed me to get a fellowship called the Mandela Washington Fellowship, which allowed me to travel to the US for 2 months, whereby we received leadership training, but we also engaged in working with US-based organizations to learn more about projects in the climate change field from the perspective of a large state nation. So now I would like to talk about my academic path. So a lot of people ask me, by profession, I am an accountant. So what does an accountant know about the environment? So first, let me tell you that how I started my career path. There was a lot of pressure for me to take on a very serious job. So, to take on a serious career, even if I had the dream um, to work around the environment sector, and to work with, young people and work with climate change, really. So, I took on I was heavily influenced to take on, an accounting path because, for financial reasons, as well as because of the reputation that comes with, having a job, in the accounting field, from my country, that is. So what I did is I did my AAT, so that's the Association of Accounting Technician in the UK. After that, I went certificate in the from the US, and then most recently I completed my master's in accounting and finance, again from the UK. So this really helped me at a point in time where I was unsure if I really wanted to take up a career in climate change or sustainable development, and just really think about I just really wanted something to help me make up my mind um, about whether what I was doing was something I was passionate about. So it turns out I was. So in 2015, I started my career at the Office of the Auditor General. So what I did is I immediately started applying the knowledge that I had received from studying accounting and finance. And then I moved on to go to the Public Enterprise Monitoring Commission. And then after that, I took on a role as audit manager, which is currently my present, which this is my current role. I'm working for a Pan-African bank that is present, that has a presence in my country locally. It's called ABSA. So I'm working with the bank right now, and this is helping to fund my dream and my many projects and my passion for saving the environment, for working for the future of Seychelles. So now I would like to talk to you a little bit about SIA, which is the NGO that I co-founded in 2014. So SIA, like I mentioned, was founded in 2014. We were a group of people who came from different island nations, right? So the member states include Comoros, Mauritius, Seychelles, Maldives, Sao Tome and Principe, Cape Verde. I don't know if you've heard about those islands, but they are very small on the map, and you can see them in the picture. But really, you really have to zoom in, just like the Seychelles, to see them. But they are islands, they exist, and there are lots of people who come from islands, and we are threatened by climate change and all the threats of natural disasters. So our main headquarters is in Mauritius, another island nation. Our main goal, as I mentioned earlier, is to advance youth-led initiatives in the area of sustainable development. So we work mostly with young people aged between 15 and 30 years old. And our main area of focus is the SDG 13, 14, and 15. So we work a lot with climate change, with environment conservation, with protecting life on land as well as underwater, because as I mentioned earlier, we are surrounded by water. We actually have more ocean territory than land territory. And so really the ocean is our very livelihood. It's where everything comes from for the people of Seychelles. So before I go on to the to the climate change perspective, into why it's a great sector for us to build careers from, I'd like to talk to you about some projects we've done. So in the picture, you can see a group of young people with their diving gears, and they are heading out at sea to explore the ocean, as well as to firsthand see what are some of those impacts of climate change in the ocean, but also to help preserve what they are going to see out there in the ocean. So in terms of some of the projects that we've done over the years, I'll talk about one very famous project, which is the Blue Economy Internship Project. So we wanted more young people to be involved in maritime careers, right? So to take on jobs such as marine biologists or to um, to have businesses, businesses that is influenced by the ocean, I would say. So what we did is we offered scholarships per se and internships for young people to enroll. They applied, and then we assigned them to different organizations in Seychelles and in Mauritius, and they did an internship as well as on-the-job training to understand what are some of those careers that exist when it comes to the blue economy, or as we call it, marine or ocean related careers. So this is one of the projects, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them on later as well. I will be sharing my details at the end of the presentation, so you can reach out to me. So now moving on to the climate change perspective to global career development, right? So what are some of the reasons why myself or my friends took on careers in the environment sector? So first of all, it's protection of our resources for today as well as tomorrow. This is the term sustainability, right? So what we want to do is to ensure that most of us have access to water, access to food. Currently, eating fish is a daily culture here in Seychelles. It's a daily practice here in Seychelles. But, at the same time, we don't want the fishes to be completely depleted from the ocean. So we want to ensure that the lifestyle that we live today ensures that there will always be fishes for the future generations to enjoy. So the second point is about preserving the balance of the ecosystem. So as you know, the ecosystem is reliant on, there are there's lots of living things and lots of aspects that makes up the ecosystem. And if we remove one of them, this can cause a disbalance in what in the ecosystem itself. So it's important to preserve that balance. And as young people, we play a very important role in ensuring that this happens. The next point is that it helps to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So these goals were ratified by Seychelles, Japan, as well as many other countries across the world, right? And these goals have been identified as objectives that the world needs to achieve for us to achieve sustainability. And this is a great contributor as to why I've taken up I've been inspired to do these projects in the environmental field. So when you're also doing projects in the environmental field, you're also helping to make a difference and helping to, you're helping your communities, you're helping your schools, your workplace, your families, right? So everybody really benefits from young people taking up careers in environmental cause. And, if you look from a social perspective or from an environmental perspective, if we take, for example, the social aspect first, when there's a lot of flooding, right? There's a lot of water that is flooding our roads, our houses. This leads to increased, waterborne diseases or increased mosquitoes, which carry diseases. And this could adversely impact our health, right? So what we want to do is to prevent those floods from happening and prevent our houses from being destroyed or from, the infrastructures to be completely damaged. So really, when we are working to help the environment, we're protecting, the social aspect of it. And then the economic aspect of it is because, once your houses are destroyed, you have to rebuild, right? You have to rebuild, and rebuilding costs money. It's expensive, it's intrusive, it's damaging. So this is the social and economic aspect of working in the environment field. And then finally, like I had mentioned previously, you know, taking up careers in those fields, it's just really, it helps to shape our culture, to shape our behaviors, our attitudes. So, culture, for example, even less and less young people in Seychelles are becoming fishermen, for instance. So, who are going to go out at sea and go and fish, and go and fish, or how are we going to sustain, the seafood culture that we have? How are we going to appreciate all the things that we have today if we're not able to protect them, today itself for tomorrow? So these factors that I've spoken lengthily about is what has been inspiring me and inspiring other young people to take on jobs, or not even jobs, but also to take on the passion and just do some work, in our communities, in our schools, in our workplaces. And I can tell you that it's something very rewarding. So I know that, you might be at university and thinking, what can I do? Or how can I start? Well, let me tell you, you can start at home. As easily as at home, you can start with your siblings. You can start with a group of friends from your school, from your class, or even from your community, coming together and just, in fact, this is how we started, how my friends and I started. We would just pick up our bags on a random Saturday morning and just go to the beach and start cleaning the beach, or go to a mangrove area and start, planting mangroves. So you don't really need to formally have an NGO in place already, or to um, you know, have a formal social club from school or anything. So just really starting somewhere, and then this will open doors for you to explore other opportunities. And I promise you, the opportunities will come, and you will see for yourself. So I've reached the end of my presentation. I just really wanted to thank you so much for listening. And I've listed my contacts here. If you wanted to learn more about the work that I do or that my NGO does, we have a website. We are also on Instagram and X, and we also have a Facebook group and a Facebook page, which would be happy um, to subscribe and just see the work that we do. So thank you very much. Over to you, Tai Chi.
All right, thank you so much for the great presentation and the sharing the views and also the view of the beautiful Seychelles as well. That was very helpful and then great learning experience. Thank you so much. So,どうでしたかね、皆さん。いろんなことを感じられたかと思うんですけども、ぜひ参考になったところとかをコメントで、この後、ムードルで入れていただければなと思います。そして、リマインドですけども、質問も受け付けております。そのコメントと質問は今回1箇所で、回答ができるようになっているはずですので、そちらに入れていただいて、すべて、アナウンさんに送らせてもらうので、ぜひね、いい感想であったりとか、それから質問。で、質問は後でまた、すべてではないですけども、いくつかピックアップして答える予定になっているので、入れてみてください。で、リマインドですけども、英語と日本語どっちも入れてもらってください。で、DeepL 使ってもらって構いません。ので、本日はこれで以上になります。ありがとうございました。Thank you so much. Time to say
Thank you so much, Tai Chi. Thank you,
goodbye.
everyone.
See you. Hey, so we can leave. Anil, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Aichi. Thanks a lot. I hope that was okay.
That is, we are, by the way, still live streaming, so we're gonna hang up, okay?
Okay,
Maybe we'll
okay.
talk later.